What is up, everybody? Obviously, this is not your normal host tonight, so may have already been a little shocked to see, wait, where is Sisu? What is going on? This is not the podcast I signed up for. But just stick with us. We're gonna try to carry a lot of weight without him being here. So, yeah, obviously, I'm hazed. Here joined with a little three-piece for you with Joey to my right. Joey, what's going on with you? How's your weekend Lorcana been?
It was good. Got to plan a set champ. We'll talk about that a little later. Got to get a little Scar promo sitting in the background. So it was a successful weekend.
Nice, awesome. And below me, Brian, below me.
You're really taking after John. He says the same thing.
Oh man, Brian, how's your weekend Lorcana been, and what have you been up to?
Good, man. Kind of just been busy with work. This is one of the months where things really kick off for me. So I actually ended up having to work on Saturday, cut it a little bit close, but we got there was a store championship that started a little later, so I was able to make it, and I added an additional playmat to the
Nice,
collection.
nice. And then I see that that nice headset stand.
Yeah.
Well, like a personalized headset stand is pretty nice.
I know. I
shout
have
out.
one too. I need to get it set up.
Yeah,
Shout out to the wife for
Yep. Same
my
with mine.
birthday.
you
I
gotta
think
love
I
it.
think my wife stole some inspiration from your wife. So.
Hey, borrowing notes is fine. It's what the end result is good.
Yeah,
so
man, I was super
everybody's
stoked
happy.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is LEDs. I just don't have any electric on the backside of my setup.
Yeah. As far as Lorcana, you know, we had a really big DLC event, the first in the Oceanic region. So that was pretty cool to watch. Unfortunately, only 511 players signed up. I definitely thought it was going to be a lot more than that. They didn't put out like the typical graphic we get of, hey, here's the meta share, this percentage of Red Blue, this percentage of Steel Song, blah, blah, blah. We don't have any of that. So we can speculate based on top 32 and top 64 numbers. Like I think there was 10 Red Ruby Sapphire in top 32, like 9 Amber Steel. Obviously, very different variants of Amber Steel, and then like 4 GP and a couple of other random decks. What are your guys' thoughts on DLC Melbourne? Did you watch any of it? Any initial thoughts without getting into deck lists yet or the winner?
Yeah, so we were myself and John. We were actually, and I'm sure we'll talk about this after, but we were gonna cast the ICL on Friday night. Obviously, Melbourne being 16 hours ahead,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So they were already well into their day on Saturday, and I got to watch a good chunk of it. I watched the first 4 or 5 rounds. And then obviously day 2, I think everybody was paying a little bit closer attention. The production itself didn't seem really bad. Like they had the normal setup and stuff. But I'll give it like as their first one. Like
Yeah.
I think it was on par, or I would think I would compare it and say it was a little bit better than what Atlanta was. Right.
That's
Being their
probably
first
I
fair.
could give that. Yeah, that's fair.
But obviously, and I'm sure we'll get into it too, there was other issues at hand that they were
Yeah.
dealing with.
Mm.
Yeah.
Some of the pros, at least on my end that I saw, people were posting pictures of the prize wall, like the prize wall.
Which is
That looked
real big.
super cool.
Yeah.
There was that mistake at the beginning where
Yeah.
the Rapunzel playmat was set out,
Insane.
and I know, no, I'm not. Posted a picture, said 100 tickets and you get a Rapunzel playmat, and everybody kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
That was corrected pretty quick. But overall, I didn't hate it. I know there were some pretty wonky judge calls, and
Yeah.
I think that
Mhm.
goes hand in hand with not having an official like judge
Judge program.
judge
Yep.
program. But that's not just over there, right? That's over here too, and it's something that
Mhm.
people have kind of been complaining about, kind of been trying to address here. And on that front, I don't think there's been too much change.
Mhm.
So, but we'll see going forward. Hopefully, this isn't the last one over there, right?
Yeah.
But I was a little bit surprised, just like you, about the limited numbers of people. I didn't think it would be at under half. or almost half,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So that kind of threw me off. I know the travel was
Expensive. Like,
kind of
yeah, the time off. Like, I mean, it's a lot to get, a lot of sacrifice to go at a for really. Look, if you're making that trip, it's not to day two. It's not to get these promos. You're making that trip because you are going for one of those.
Mhm.
So it's a huge
and,
sacrifice.
and same thing, like, and I don't want that to reflect in, like, with the Japanese Grand Prix, and I don't think it will, because there's such a huge TCG culture already in that country. Uh, no, this was Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
So it was the very first tournament out in Australia. Question was this Melbourne, Florida, or somewhere else? But no, this was in Australia. But again, Lorcana just kind of took off in
Mhm.
Australia.
Mhm.
I don't know that they really have too many large tournaments over there, at least none that I've ever really kept up with. So I'm hoping that this isn't the last one. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that they're still, the organizers and RB are still able to kind of look
Mm.
forward into the future and be like, hey, this wasn't a complete loss. And they're able to kind of continue to expand and invest that money, build a foundation for larger tournaments.
Yeah.
So,
I think it was a great first tournament, like for the Oceanic region to like just jumpstart it, getting 2 worlds qualifications out of the way for first and second. Um, I think like you the nail on the head with like players traveling. Like you're going over there to spike to win the tournament. Like you're not dropping that much money to fly over there without that likelihood of you topping. And I think what we saw in this tournament, with it only being 500 players and very new into the region, because the other people that were able to make that tournament were probably South Asian
Yep.
population that just
yep.
got into the game, that have been trying to break into the game, and now they're not having to travel across the world to go play. So you're talking about a lot of players that probably have a lot of good experience in card like TCGs. Um, but what you saw in the results, and Red Blue just absolutely dominating this whole tournament, you're talking about a deck, and a lot of the players I don't think were locals. It seemed like a lot of the day tours were foreigners flying in.
Yep.
And I think they just really took the tournament by the reins, took the control deck, know all the matchups inside and out, and these people are coming in with like the first couple rounds on stream. Like
Yeah.
you're seeing some spicy takes. Like you got a
Yeah.
couple one of two ofs that start dropping down on the board, and you're just like, what are we watching? And
Yeah.
it's like, I think that we saw a lot of that in this tournament with a field of 500. You probably had less than 50 foreigners, and
Yeah.
probably half of that, if not more, made day two,
Yep.
and
Yep.
if not half of that, topped.
Yep.
So like, I think it was this was the tournament if you wanted to spike. Like, we'll get into the winner later, but the man's gone into so many different DLCs and just come up short every single time. So the fact that he was able to take one down was pretty cool to see. So I thought it was a good tournament for Oceanic to break through.
Yeah.
I think it was a pretty standard snapshot of the meta that we've seen worldwide, and definitely pockets of the world have different metas, like we see in EU versus NA. Like EU, you see a lot of the low to the ground stuff, or more control with green purple. But then over here, you see a lot of
Steel.
a lot of steel, a lot of green steel, a lot of amber steel, stuff like that. So we'll see. I like where we're at, but it was a good event.
It's coming for sure. There's a couple things I want to mention about that for sure.
Do you guys at all feel like, and obviously not to the degree that we saw, but, or no, maybe to a higher degree than what we saw in Toronto? Because Toronto, I felt like when we got there, the format was supposed to, like, dead format or
Fixed.
whatever,
Yeah.
fixed. But in the early rounds, we saw a lot of people that, and this is at the beginning, they're like, oh, raise your hands if you're new to DLC, this is your first time. But I still feel like I saw more slightly spicy takes on decks in the earlier rounds, and maybe that's
Yeah.
just across the board. But I do think Toronto had a lot more locals, um, and then you
Mhm.
had your pro players showing up and stuff. But I think again, I didn't hate it. I'm super happy that they were able to get this tournament going. Just some few concerns that we saw, and everybody's been talking about it already.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, well, I actually do want to talk about that once we get towards like the Final Four and stuff. But I I don't want to paint it in a negative light, but I think it was super obvious to people that were locals, even if I didn't see them, didn't know, didn't hear them talk or anything like that, because you could just tell the level of play
Mhm.
from people that had been playing the game fairly new, some of the
Yeah.
lines they were taking and things like that. And I will say, like, look, being on a stream, sitting there and having all that spotlight, you're at the first major, your friends are probably all around you, excited that you're even on the stream anyways.
Yep.
But that being said, those first 3 games were pretty rough as a
Mhm.
Pretty
spectator.
rough. Yeah.
And I've commentated, it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to commentate. You have to fill time. You have to kind of talk through lines and stuff. But
Mhm.
there was a lot of questionable things said from a
Yeah.
commentary perspective from both matchup side and like card quality, where that they'd be like, this card is what's really good against this matchup, and was inherently like really wrong, like that objectively wrong. But
I
I mean,
think to
look,
your point though, on the commentary side, there were only 3 commentators the whole
that's
event, which
crazy
was
too.
Yeah.
crazy.
That's a long
And
day.
I would have loved to know how they selected it, or did they get like, because I don't think I've seen any of them before.
Well,
Yeah,
they were locals, I
they're
think.
locals. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to think if they. I don't know. I don't even know the company that runs it in Oceania, right? Like, who's the
Yeah.
PPG over there,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? So that I think that has a lot to do with it. They're probably the people in charge of getting said commentators and judges and
But that's what I'm saying. Like, would you not think to, as the tournament organizer, to bring in some experienced help to at least lay the groundwork? Because
Here's
going forward now, like,
it's a
what are you
cost. So
gonna
now
do?
you're taking an extra cost. Would you take the local guy that costs you $50, or take the guy that you got to fly in and pay a couple grand to get
Yeah,
to
but
for the
but
weekend?
as a business, you got to look into the future of, like, now
Magic Brush.
this
correct, but you also have
this
to see.
organizer is
Mhm.
kind of shot themselves in the foot. Their first tournament, a whole bunch of things that could have gone right went wrong, and that's, you're gonna say it's because of money. Like,
Yeah,
this is a huge investment for
Sure.
yourself. Like, hey, we got picked by RB, and not just RB, inherently, like Disney. You can get contracted again going into the future. I don't know what their contract looks now,
yeah.
but I would, if that was my business, this was my
Mhm.
organization, I would want to try to, obviously you got to stay within your budgets and stuff, but
Yeah.
I would try to put on the best production I can. So later on, this doesn't happen, which is what's happening now. There's no way that this doesn't reflect poorly on them, and there's no way that it doesn't fall back
I
on.
don't know. I don't think it was that, like,
Yeah, I
bad
don't
of
think it
an
was that
event.
bad. I don't think it was that
I
bad
I,
either.
think the judging side is bad, but I think the
Yeah,
event itself seemed like it ran really well.
that's me being nitpicky, right? Like being super competitive minded and like wanting to watch. I don't want this kind of sounds like rude, but I was way more inclined to go to a watch party of someone I knew that understood the game very well and listen to them rather than
oh, for
listen to
sure,
the commentators on the stream.
Yeah.
sure.
And I don't think that that is the product they want to be putting out. But I am probably, I mean, and this also sounds arrogant. I don't mean it this way at all, but I'm probably at like the 5% of people they're not really trying to hit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They're trying to get this awesome umbrella, an awesome wave of 95% of the people that are just
Cast a
looking
big
at
net.
this game. Yeah,
Yeah.
looking at this game for the first time, being excited about it.
The
And that,
casuals as well.
yeah, that's not me. I want to know, why did they take that line? What
Mhm.
are they thinking? What are they anticipating? And really get into the mindset of what is this player doing and what makes them perform at this level. Like that's the
Yeah.
stuff I want to see, and I think that's why I enjoy the watch parties and stuff like
I
that
think
more.
they didn't have a analytical commentator. They had it all color. So,
Yeah.
like, it was a bunch of fill from both sides, and it's just like it worked. Like, they got the job done. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, but
Mhm.
like there definitely could have been way more insight and stuff like that. But we'll see. They'll get
And
better.
I want to get the negative part out of the way now, because I mean we're already kind of like just talking about the event as a whole, and obviously I think the only way that we heard a few different judge things, but the one that I think is the most mainstream being talked about right now involves a player piloting Ruby Sapphire in semifinals, not just the Swiss round, not just anything like that. And the situation was, and this is all speculation because we don't know if something was verbalized until someone that was either playing in that game or the judge comes out and says it. But it happened super fast. Broom on board, magic broom on board, 1 cost broom. That when you play a character, you can banish the broom to draw a card. Player that has the broom quests with broom, plays the goat, gains the lore, and then goes to banish his broom, and then there's a judge call. The player that called the judge had a shark out, so obviously didn't want that broom to go away because that's a free thing for him
with
to
no cards in hand, I believe.
Yep, no cards in hand.
And the I guess the judge was called after the player with the goat went to annotate the lore gain, came back, and then per the rules, right? It's all in the bag.
Yep.
The lore gain is mandatory.
Yep.
But the card draw is optional.
How many times, Brian, have you played goat, game lore, banish broom? Like, I mean, come on, hundreds.
And to note, I believe it was like at the 19th minute, a similar play was done
with White Rose.
With the White Rose, where tap the broom, quest it, play the White Rose, go to gain the lore. Same effect that Goat has. Didn't have any issues there, but it was they were 1-1, right?
They were 1-1, and then obviously no shark on board at that point either.
And no hand for the Ruby Sapphire player, and I don't know if he got desperate and tried to.
I mean, so here's the way this whole thing gets thrown out, and I feel like if this was the case, it would have been said right off the rip.
Yep.
If he said goat pass, like play goat pass, that's the only explainable thing to me that would be like, okay, that's a misplay. But if that happened, there's no way
we're gonna need to get somebody who can read lips super well, right? Because their face is on camera.
It would have been said. Like, there's no way that he's. I mean, the community as a whole, competitive community, is destroying this person's name.
Yeah,
they're bringing up stuff that happened, that he's a known cheater, blah blah blah. And if it was goat pass, he would have said it right off the rip. Makes me wonder if the red blue the judge was somewhat weak and could get a ruling in his favor. It was so bizarre.
I had heard, again, this is all speculation because we weren't there, but these judges new to the game, new to judging Lorcana, obviously, and there were a lot of bizarre calls, things that maybe should have ended in a DQ or a game loss were just kind of ended up in a warning, and this was throughout all of Swiss, not just leading into day 2. And again, it doesn't come back to the tournament organizer not investing a little bit more into these judges, but that's neither here nor there. Going back to the play itself, neither player has said anything, right? I don't think either of them have come out.
Neither player, but there's been a lot of top players on the side of the Amethyst Emerald player.
Yes. Yep.
So one of my questions is, and you guys could correct me if I'm, or like fill in the gap for my information. This seems like it was thrown together a little quick too. We only got this information about DLC Melbourne in what, EU Continentals in December?
Sounds right. I mean, I don't know how quickly they're thrown together it was or anything like that. We don't know what they're doing on the
correct. They could have been doing on the back end side, but like you're talking only 2 months since the announcement, so like maybe a month or two prior to that, and so you're like what you were alluding to, Brian, with like the judges and the rulings and new, like these sounded like situations that like we were handling set 3 or 4.
No, like I can't agree with that. I can't agree with that because let's last month. Let's just take the last 30 days. Almost all that's being talked about is how judges have handled situations. We're not even talking about Ed got a lot of talk, deservingly so, because he had an incredible deck list that won the NA Continentals. Like that, awesome.
Sure, yeah.
But the overarching storyline was the judges DQ'd 10 players from day 2.
But
right?
then you also go onto Reddit and you see the last 2 head judges for PPG events talking about how it's not worth it, their time. It's not worth them being involved. The pay is not good enough. So you're telling me that you're going to hire someone that's an experienced Lorcana judge from either EU or NA to fly to Australia, judge an event for a box?
No, that they're not. I don't think that's. I think it has to come from Ravensburg. It has to come from
Sure.
I again, I don't want to dwell on the negative because there's a lot of positive to talk about with the event and some of the other things that are going on right now. But I do want to just this needs to be handled by Ravensburg.
For sure. But here's the thing too: is you got to look at it from Ravensburg's perspective. We're over here in, like what you said earlier, the 5% of the competitive players that play Lorcana, the 5, 15, 10% of players that play Lorcana.
But what about all the casuals now that think that that's how Broom works?
Well, I mean, sure, that's what they could take away from this, but the success of the game is not like Magic doesn't make its money off its Pro Tour. They make its money off its casuals. So like Ravensburgers doesn't necessarily care potentially on what the judges are doing because the game as a whole is successful. The attendance is successful. Like these are things that are being spoken on Reddit in competitive circles. These are in competitive discords that are like being tossed around. You don't see there's a couple posts in here and there in the Facebook group chats and stuff like that, but like this will probably dwindle away in a couple weeks and we won't even be talking about it anymore.
Until he got the guy in question got a Worlds invite. So
that's the thing. How many people? All right, so let's take 100 player sample size. Let's say we have 99 of the most competitive players in the world, and there's one casual. Let's just crazy numbers, right?
Sure.
It's never accurate, but let's just say that's what our 100 player stats are. Now, there's a DQ that shouldn't have happened, right? Because of a ruling, whatever. The competitive players like, this is BS. I'm moving on to another game that has a judge program, and I know that I'm going to be protected. So some of these players leave. Now, say you're 50-50. Like, I know that's, again, I'm just trying to create an example here.
Yeah.
Now, let's say 30 of those players are angle sharks or some people that are rule sharks. And they're going to try to manipulate some of these more casual leaning people. And now you're creating this environment of people that are inexperienced in a game that can now be taken advantage of because they don't have the experience and they don't know what to look for. They don't know that what their opponent just did is wrong and they need to call a judge on it. There's a lot of levels to that. So if you don't come out and cut this off at the head, you're creating this environment for your casual players or your bridge players, which I think is really where Lorcana can really thrive. The bridge players that are going to these set champs doing well and they want to go in these competitive circuits, they have a very good line of doing that. But if there's cheating that is happening time and time again at every other event or every event, there's multiple instances caught, and you don't do anything about it from the top down, it's not a good look.
And not only that, like that's gonna promote. It'll make the even good players, like the better, more competitive players, like, oh, if this guy can get away with it, what stops me? Like it's.
I don't know, like that.
Dude,
I think good players. Like,
there will always be people. There will always be people that will take that route. I mean, that's a perfect example this weekend. Like, could the guy have potentially won without doing that? I think so. But now
we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is like the local communities as a whole, I think helps keep that away from it. Like, I think the local scenes are really strong in a lot of different parts of the country. I can only talk for NA because that's the most of the people we interact with. And I feel like the local scenes are very strong and there's a lot of spread out competitive players that would sniff all of that stuff out. Like, obviously you go to some no-name store that's running a tournament that has 8 players or 7 players that show up for a set champ. Like, sure, something could happen at one of those things, but just like, I think that there's a really healthy community of the people that actually play the game of Lorcana. And I think this cheating and this angle shooting and this rule sharking is at like the tip.
It's not the
of,
norm. I don't think.
No,
I don't think
it's
any of this
tip
is
top
the norm.
competitive players that are coming over from other games that they cheated in before. That like you see the Yu-Gi-Oh players, you see the Magic players, you
I don't
see
even
the
think it's tip top. It's just people that have gotten
Yeah.
away with it before.
Sure.
I've seen it myself, like people trying to say like abuse, let the storm rage on or something, and
Mhm.
whatever. But if you cheated before, you're not to say you're likely to do it again. People can, reform themselves. But here we are, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I do agree
Yeah.
with Mikey. Something needs to be done with it before
agree.
other people start picking up on the fact that, like, oh, this guy got away with it.
Yep.
I can do it too. This guy got away with it. Why not?
Yeah.
I just
Right?
want to put a button on it, like I said, because I don't want to dwell on all the negativity,
Sure.
because there's a lot around it right now. But I do think that person needs to be held to the fire for what they did. If we don't hear like, oh, he said go pass, like
Yeah,
that's
but
the
then
only thing that's like.
But then the
just don't.
conversation goes back to the guy in Dallas. Like nothing's been done against that guy.
Well, he
has
wasn't
it?
at Worlds or Continentals.
Yeah.
He didn't have to be. He's already qualified for Worlds.
Oh, that's true. I mean, they probably did it in
No,
the
he
fight,
he got second.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
qualified for Worlds.
No, it's not.
No,
it's
no,
not.
no. Winner.
It's not.
Winner.
Only Melbourne was the top two.
Yeah,
Oh,
only
okay.
Melbourne was
Okay.
top two. Yeah.
All right,
I
so
could've sworn it was
let's get into some deck lists, right?
Yeah.
I went through and just kind of grabbed some stuff that's jumped out at me out of the Melbourne tournament. They only have some deck lists. I think there's 32 Ink decks right now, so I wanted to just grab those. Starting from this list here, they were top 64. It's a deck that we've kind of seen popping up more and more. See if I can make this a little bigger. Yeah,
dear to my heart.
Yeah, it's getting more popular, man. Like I do think it's a pretty solid deck.
This top 64.
It did. It
Ooh.
did. Yeah.
I
I can
enjoy
actually
it.
tell you exactly what place. Yeah, top 64. So they lost in the first round. But they day two'd with it, man. So there's nothing to be ashamed of there. I think Peter Pan's kind of been part of the equation since since
Can you
Continentals
zoom in
Anaheim.
really quick on this? Blow it up again.
I was
Thank
trying
you. Oh, yeah, you can put it down.
Dude, there's a story. The guy posted his
Love
story
you.
about this deck on 20 lore. I don't know if you guys saw it.
No,
I didn't.
But this guy, he didn't have the deck built until the day of.
No, I think you're talking about Lore Gains, no?
No, it's this guy.
Oh, is this the guy that forgot all of his cards?
No,
he
that's
just
Lore
didn't have
Gains.
it.
Oh, okay.
No, this guy just didn't own. I guess
What?
prior to the event, he was trying to get in touch with whoever had cards, and a bunch of I think 2 buyers fell through. Met with a lady,
Oh my
and he was
God.
able to pick up 19 of the
What?
cards he needed. And
Wow.
then he gets to the event, which I don't know, he didn't explain how the deck list submission thing worked, blah blah. Sits down for round 1, and he starts talking to the guy, explaining, "Hey, I don't have a deck to play with." So I guess he could have submitted the deck, but he just didn't have the cards.
Mm.
Sits down against his round 1 opponent. It ends up being a repair, but the guy hooks him up with 8 more of the cards he needs because he has his backpack.
Oh my
Then
God.
this guy starts sprinting around looking for anybody with backpacks, asking for the cards.
Way.
The repair happens. He goes to the round 1, explains. This time he doesn't get off. He gets the auto loss. So round 1 he loses 0-2. He sprints down. I think it was 2 kilometers to the nearest card shop. Manages to snag almost everything. I think it was missing single digit cards. Comes back, and the last person he runs into happens to have exactly what he needs, and then he takes off. And he had to win an in round 9, but
my
this
God.
guy did it.
That's
And
awesome. That's cool.
It's
That's
on
a cool story.
Yeah, it's in the general chat of 20.
I gotta go back and go get
So
that.
is he a local, or is he someone that flew in and kind of just went by the seat of his pants?
I think he's local, not to Melbourne.
Okay, so he's in Australia,
Yeah,
but just didn't have access to the cards. That's super cool story.
Yeah.
Able to get those promos and stuff that's pretty sweet.
Yep.
I love
and
this
on your
deck, though.
first, and I think he's only been playing for 2 or 3 weeks or something.
Well,
that.
obviously he didn't have the cards, so how's he?
Yeah. So
well, there are ways to play. Yeah.
that was pretty wild.
That is cool. That's a really cool story. Good thing, like again, like we're playing this card game, and obviously the goal is you want to do well, you want to win, you want to get these promos. But the memories that you make, you'll remember forever, and you'll talk about all your friends with what you did that one time, what combo you pulled off. Getting all your cards the last minute to be able to day 2 is a pretty cool story, though, that I doubt he'll ever forget.
Yeah.
So another story is Lore Gains.
We didn't talk about the deck.
Well, I mean,
we just talked about the story of the deck.
It's green-blue. It ramps.
The lore.
It ramps,
the lore of
drop
the deck.
big things, bounces
But
everything
it's
back to
playing
their hand.
Baymax. That card's awesome. I love that card.
So the Amax obviously is really good with Scrooge, Clarabelle, and Peter Pan, because a lot of times they'll swing into Peter Pan to be able to gain lore that turn. So the Amax can kind of heal it and give you a way to keep churning. I don't know why it formatted it this way, because like all the 1-drops are like not in order. Like, it's kind of crazy to me.
Based off characters and then actions. Songs.
But I really like the things that I noticed in the deck is the 3-drop Clarabelle instead of running the 1-drop for that extra card draw. I think is really important.
That's why I'm thrown off. I was thinking that was 1-drop Clarabelle the whole time. I was like, why are they swapped?
Yeah. No, and I think that thing's awesome.
He only has the 2 1-drops.
Develop?
Mm-hmm. No, it's only the one, right?
Well, the two cards. There's only 2 cards you can play on one.
2
exactly. Which I think is great. Like Mikey's famous phrase in set 3 or 4 was Ink Pass.
Yep. I almost made our podcast that name.
Yeah.
But now 1-drops are way too good.
Exactly.
But back in the day,
3 bend to your wills, like it's just it's a cool deck. I
that's the reason I don't like not playing the 1-drop is because you're trying to empty your hand super fast. Mm-hmm. So not playing a 1-drop keeps an extra card in your hand a lot of the time, and even Develop just replaces itself.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I wouldn't want to do that. But hey, he day 2, so good on him.
Why wouldn't you want to? You want to keep the card density so you have multiple threats and have a lot of options.
Well, I mean, your ideal game plan is ramp, Clarabelle, and refill or bend.
Clarabelle and then bend right after.
Yeah. So Clarabelle, I'm drawing those cards anyways. Like that extra 1-drop doesn't do.
Okay, that's fair.
Not playing it. Like you're not emptying your hand.
I don't even know if that's your like optimal line. I think Clarabelle is like that catch up like mechanic. I don't think that's the go-to.
Yeah.
Chicano wrote, "What a crazy build."
Yes.
It sort of is, but Colby from the Forbidden Mountain did extremely well in the Revival tournament and the side events of the competitive side events at the Nationals with this a similar deck.
Because I see this as a Muse deck, but we'll go on to the other crazy story of the tournament.
Actually, I think this is wrong. I must not have
pulled his.
That's an old list. So we'll talk about this one then. I'll come back
Joey,
to that.
I think that's a question that you could answer. Are you guys fans of John Silver here? And I defer this to you because you were running John Silver in your Emerald Sapphire list.
It is an insane card. I mean, the fact that it has a ETB effect, enter the battlefield, and a quest ability to give Reckless, being on 6. So if you go ramp, you can hit that on turn 4, and that is a 5/5 that is constantly giving your opponent's characters Reckless. It's questing for 2. It's not very easy to deal with. Like, we look at a Scrooge McDuck is a hard card for a lot of decks to deal with on turn 4 if you just raw play it. Now you're playing a 6-drop 5/5 that's given everything Reckless. Like, the stats are there. When you also have a Scrooge McDuck in play and you quest with it, then play John Silver to follow up to give that thing Reckless, like your Scrooge is living. Then you follow that up with the Baymax. Like, you're doing a lot of crazy things here. And like everything in this deck has, except Tipo, everything has 3 toughness or higher.
Actually, I think I know why you don't play 1-drops in this deck. Because you need the ink.
Yeah, I agree.
So you're like, if you hit Sail instead of Tipo, you have to have 2 inkable cards.
Yeah, and how many uninkables are there? There's
4,
5,
6, 9.
They don't have that many.
11.
That many. Yeah.
12.
12 is
14 with the genies.
Yeah. 15.
Oh, yeah. Genie is a good card too.
So you need the inkables.
Swap this real quick. We're gonna do some editing on the fly here. Give me 2 seconds. I clicked the wrong one because I suck.
Joey, do you plan on revisiting?
I think so. I'm not gonna play it at the set or the 10K.
Yeah.
I got my Scar this weekend, but I'm not gonna be able to play in between now and 10K. But definitely, will probably pick it up after the 10K because and we'll get to it later. But like, there's nothing else going on in the foreseeable future for Lorcana competitively.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So Lore Games, very good, popular content creator for Lorcana, good player. He's day 2'd, I think, a couple of times now in North American DLCs. So he took his talents and went to Down Under and got there. And I guess he went to play in a local. I heard him telling the story like the night before. Opened up the deck box and it was completely empty.
Oh no!
Yeah, dude. So I guess he hit up a bunch of. That'd be the benefits of being a content creator, right? And having some connections with some of the people there, and obviously Lorcana community as a whole just being awesome and supporting him to find these cards. So he was able to play the deck list he wants, and this is what he submitted. I believe he day 2'd with a similar list. I want to say Vegas. It could have been Seattle. It's one of those two for sure that he was on a Mufasa list and day 2'd with it, and might have even got top 16. It's like super close if you didn't get top 16. I like the list. I played a couple of lists like it. I would as a Blurple player, I would much rather play against this than pretty much any other Steel Song deck. It does still have the docks to be able to chain them, and that can be really annoying, but only 8 songs, no mines to do the extra damage sometimes. Hades is kind of a Mufasa counter. Yeah, I mean, it's a good deck, though. I think it's a lot more reach against red-blue.
Sure. Yeah, the Rapunzel's Tower gives you, because it's got an 8 butt, is a McDuck Manor, a library adjacent, like just gonna get you a couple. Or does it even gain lore?
No.
Oh, I take that back.
I mean, but it makes everything a Rapunzel threat.
Sure,
so that is true. It basically makes it to where you can quest, and they have to make a very hard decision.
Okay.
Say you play a character alongside that Rapunzel's Tower is like a standing character. Now you're just like, man, I want to banish this piglet, but I'm leaving myself up to just get absolutely destroyed by Rapunzel here. So it's a cool little mind game, a cool little combat trick you can do within the Lorcana game. Steel John Silver is something John and I have been talking about for a little bit.
I like that card a lot.
I think it's a really good card.
I pulled the foil one this weekend if anybody wants one.
There you go. No, this is a very cool deck. It's interesting he's only on 2 Mufasas. I guess because he's not playing that many. He's got a lot of misses, right? With Mufasa, with 10. 10 is a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a cool list. He obviously did pretty well. I think he got top 32 with this. So I'm sure that's not where he wanted to be.
Sure.
Flying down there, but both him and No I'm Not, who I follow quite a bit, said that although they didn't perform completely to where they wanted to, they said the tournament as a whole was a really good time. So
nice.
Getting down to Australia.
Without a doubt, I was experiencing FOMO that first day, dude. I was like, man, only 500 people showed up. I should have been there.
I think the number came out to top 64 was you only needed 4 2-0s.
Yeah, 41 points. 41.
Yeah.
Was it 41? Okay, yeah, which is still pretty low comparison to everything else.
Yeah.
I was really hoping he was going to play Blurple Lore Games because I know he's been messing around with it a little bit, and I do think we'll get into the winning list and stuff like that. I was pretty shocked that Blurple wasn't at least one of the decks in top 64 because of how it performed in Continentals. And I think the floor is not super low on that, or super high, I should say, on that deck. But if you get a pretty good grasp on the game, you could perform pretty well into a lot of the meta, especially if you figure out like the Amber Steel Diggy Hole versions of the deck. Now I want to hello to you guys as well. I want to get into the alias of Captain Kangaroo.
Yes.
Dude, that had
this
us
was
going for a minute, and I
yeah,
was like, "Oh, dude, I want this guy to win." I didn't
yeah,
even know who it was. Just the
yep.
name was amazing.
So little backstory here. I think Brian, did you play him as well at Charlie's Lamb Chops?
Jack did.
Oh, okay, okay. So we're following this tournament. As Brian mentioned, we're got FOMO. We wish we were there. Obviously, we think we're way better than we are and where we performed. Like, oh, we could win this whole thing. Like, come on, we should have been there. 500 players.
Yeah.
Um, and we see Captain Kangaroo in Melee, and we're like, this is going to be the winner. And I think there was another guy named like God or something like that. And I
Well,
was like, those are the two
didn't he
people.
beat Kendall as well, Captain Kangaroo?
I don't remember, but I just remember following along. Like, dude, he's doing it. He's doing it.
Yeah.
Come to find out, Captain Kangaroo is Lamb Chops, who is obviously a very, 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 if not the best Blue Steel player, one of the best Blue Steel players in North America. Already has a Mickey.
And I don't think they posted his name until
Until like the
semifinals. Like
semifinals.
everybody's actual name got posted, but the whole time it was like, "Oh my God, he's made Captain Kangaroo's making a run. This guy's on
Yeah.
a heater." Blah
Yep.
blah.
Yeah. So and then this deck list is very cool. I can agree with that, Chicano Heat, and that made like the floor comment. Maybe that's why we didn't see it as much. It is a little harder to pilot for people that haven't played a lot of purple. But just looking at some of these deck list choices, I do think it would have done very well. Now this list is I think very spicy. I've lost to the Pyros Arthur combo quite a few times on the client that shall not be named.
Do you mind
And
explaining what it does?
I
Yes.
actually don't know what it does.
So Pyros, I don't know if I can zoom this in a little more so we can see it. You still can't read it. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may re-ready this character. So basically, you play Arthur, which lets you challenge readied characters with Pyros, and he can challenge everything because Arthur gives resist as well.
Resist to. Wow.
Hello to Bend, Oregon. That's awesome.
Love it.
Cool to see we're getting further and further, expanding our reach. But yeah, there's some cool choices here. And again, I've seen that combo, that Arthur Pyros combo I mentioned with God, I don't know the name of the card, but it's a 2-cost action with Huey doing Louis on it that gives a character evasive. And with Pyros, and it killed all my genies. In one turn, I had like 3 genies out, and he killed all 3. With Arthur, I mean, there's a lot of ink, but with Blue Steel, you get to so much ink because you're quilling, you're whole new worlding, you're doing all this crazy stuff. Pleakley is also, I think, a very, very, very spicy card.
I love it.
I am very against that card. What about the 1 Tipo, bro? Is that why you think he's on Pleakley?
What?
I mean, I
Well,
would
no,
imagine
because
you'd want more than
because
one.
and I don't want to delve off into Bad Vegas's list. We'll talk about the ICL thing, but I think Fishbone, at least in Sapphire Steel, Fishbone is the way to go. Honestly and truly, and Pleakley is just another Fishbone. I don't know why you would commit to the one singular Tipo, I guess.
Maybe because you really don't want to ramp on 2. You want to play a body down.
Yeah. But you
Or you
also
wanna
have
play
the target of
Spinfire.
Simba. You have Simba
Yeah,
as well.
Simba is a good target because it's like, all right, I'm only getting my second whole new world away, and there's no way I draw another one, right? And then you draw, you're like, okay, I can Simba this away and figure out something else, and then you completely it after. So
Yeah,
it's
you
kind of getting
upgrade
double
him from
value.
a 1-2 to a 3-4. Like that's a pretty good upgrade as far as board present goes.
I don't feel like that's the easiest way to say that because you're still losing an extra body. But no, I mean it's. I think Blue Steel is probably the only deck that could play Pleakley.
You know what? Hear me out here. Here's another thing is you have Shark is the biggest threat in the meta. Now, Pleakley allows you to quest in with a character and destroy him, essentially giving you a bounce as like a fox or something like that. No, I mean you're getting an extra lore here and there from Simba and Smee, or like you transform a Smee that's about to die.
I think that's
into a
just like
Pleakley.
a free. I wouldn't say that's like the main reason you're playing the Pleakley. That's
No,
just
but
kind of
it's
like
like
an added
it
bonus.
added. Yeah, exactly. Like the floor is its ramp. The top end is
the floor is it ramps itself.
Yeah, Sure.
which is
sure,
pretty
sure, sure.
bad. Like you play a 3-drop that just ramps you for a turn and do nothing to board because it's not a May. So if you play it to an empty board, it's ramping itself.
It's a 1 jump ahead.
Yeah, for 3 and out of your hand. So no, it's not a 1 jump ahead. I don't know, man. Hey, Lamb Chops, insane pilot. I got the pleasure of playing against him. Was one of the nicest opponents I played against. Was cheering for him. I wish he could have brought it home, but still top 4 is nothing to scoff at all. Super well played from him on a very, very interesting deck list. And now I have the winner, the final list. Let's see what Chicano Heat said real quick about this before we move on. Nice seeing Pleakley get some play. I expected a lot more from Pleakley at the beginning of the set, but losing a body on board to play him is tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thinking as well. But again, I think if any deck could do it, it would be this color combo.
Yeah,
and
Pleakley, like in Sapphire, Amethyst is definitely tough because you're trying to maintain a bigger and bigger board state.
Yes, it's too neg tempo for sure. Now, this list is something.
It is.
There's a lot of interesting takes here. So this is the winning list. DKP, incredible player. I don't know how many Mickeys he has, but I think he has more than he can count on his hand, if I believe correctly.
Only player to qualify for both Continentals.
Yeah, and almost every time he's played, he's gotten a Mickey. So super impressive. He mentioned that he worked on this deck list for quite a bit to really fine tune for the metagame. I think this was like the counter to red purple to Ed's list, if you will. Like I think this was like the rubber band effect to that deck. But as you can see, no ice blocks, no big Sisu, no little Sisu,
barely any uninkables.
Barely on any uninkables. 4
no
Goofy.
Vitalisphere.
No Vitalisphere. 4 Goofy, 4 Manner. Yeah, thoughts, Joey. Start with you.
I love it because it feels just like Ed's. Basically, I'm going to attack every red-blue player in red-purple, and this feels like I'm going to attack. I don't think this beats red-purple, honestly. I don't really see how it works, but this attacks every low-to-the ground creature deck. I mean, the 4 of Goofies, the 4 of Maui's, like this just screams, I'm going to be able to deal with your board every single turn. I'm going to just outgrind you little bit by little bit, gaining lore off Goofy, gaining lore off Maui, gaining lore off McDuck Manor, going back to 4 Be Prepareds, playing 4 Pirate's Life. Like it's essentially a burn deck, in all intents purposes. Like this deck, and honestly, like if you think about it, like where we saw red purple go burn at the beginning of the set, this is very similar. And almost to the point of like, is there an argument to throw some Flins in here? But that's a whole nother conversation. I like it. It's definitely a different take. I don't think this is the standard red-blue deck that's going to be taking like the meta going forward.
I hope it is.
Yeah, it's definitely not. This was, in my opinion, I'm flying to Melbourne, Australia. Everything's 4 of, everything's super consistent. I have a game plan that I'm going to execute, and I'm going to be able to do it every single time. Yeah. And I think he talked about that in one of his interviews, where he's just like, this is what I'm doing turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and I'm going to rinse and repeat. Like, I think he was prioritizing develop your brain instead of popsicle every turn on turn 1 if he could.
He's only playing 3 Faversham, so that makes sense.
And
for sure.
Only 4 items.
Yeah. But the point is like, I'm going to help map my draws out better, in a sense. What's he saying?
Yeah, I can't wait to see people pilot. I honestly think this deck, if I played, I guess I can't even say that, but I would love to see this deck as a purple player because I don't think it ever beats that deck.
Sure. For me, I like a lot of what he's doing in this. Goofy's never been on my radar. I think Hector talked about it was on his, and I think DKP stole it from Hector, is what he was saying earlier in the chat when they played in Continentals. But Goofy was never on my radar. I think that's a really good inclusion because being able to drop him on 3 to deal with the aggro start is lights out. follow up with singing How Far I'll Go. 4 Pirate's Life seems crazy. I went up to 3 during my set champ run.
No.
2 Let It Go is really good for the sticky threats. 4 McDuck Manor is insane. Every other person's on 2. But
I just think the card draw is the problem, man. Like I just feel like you could run out of gas so often with this list, and that's what would worry me playing this version of Ruby Sapphire.
But so here's the thing: I don't think this deck grinds. This deck is supposed to end the game soon, because if you look at it, all the card draw is card filtering. It's all card selection. It's How Far I'll Go selecting out of 2 cards. It's Grammatala selecting out of 2 cards. Develop Your Brain. Azurite Sea, draw a card. Visions, pick out of 5. Like, you're picking the cards that you want to play and mapping out your draw. Mulligan decisions are so important in this deck. Like, you are trying to impact the board. Like, whereas everyone sees you ink a blue and a red card in the first 2 turns, they have a game plan for red-blue. This deck is not the one that, like, when it's an empty board state and you have a bunch of reactive cards, you're going to pass.
Yeah.
It's an empty board state. All right, drop 2 Manors, drop a Shark proactively. Like, I'm trying to get on board, control the board, and end the game. Like, this is a different style than I think what people are used to. And I think if you take it in a way that, if you play it like traditional red-blue, you're going to get run over.
Gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
But and I think so you think it beats the mirror?
Look at the finals.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where it's like the mirror is all about attrition, right? But I think this deck is all about just crossing the finish line.
Yeah, I will say I did see a couple of the. It wasn't the finals. It was, I think, DKP's either top 16 or top 32 match, and it was a mirror. And I will say that his opponent made some very questionable lines too. Like, I was like, that is just not. I think little lack of playing experience, if you will.
But even if you do have experience playing, you're expecting a traditional red-purple or red-blue player, especially coming from the king of red-blue.
Well, like, for example, he had like a T-Po and a Shark and quested with both when DKP had a Shark out. Like, that's one example. So giving him like a Shark value into T-Po is like, what is going on?
Okay,
and the Shark still lives. And then he had a dragon in hand, so he could have just waited a turn and then dragoned the Shark without giving him any value at all. And he was like hellbent. He didn't have any cards in hand. So whatever. Sure. I'm just. Again, I hope more people play this deck list. I really do.
I want to test it out, but yeah, I'm definitely going to take some hints from it to tweak what I got going on in my own. I do enjoy the lower Hiram. I've been thinking about that lately, and it makes a lot of sense. In the fact that
wild to me. This seems so wild to me.
No, it does. I agree, and that's why it's like taken me forever to even like contemplate doing it. But just like when you think about it, it's a lightning rod. Like, I can count on one hand in the last like 5 tournaments that I've played that Hiram quest for anything.
But how many games are you playing and you're like 6 or 7 turns and you're like, man, if I draw a Hiram here, this game is over.
Yeah, and that's why you have 3 of them in the deck.
Yeah, I don't know. With only 4 items, it's like
no, and obviously I would play my normal. Like, I'm gonna play more traditional, but like even then, it's just like you drop a Hiram, he's dead 99% of the time. Like,
I will say, I don't think this deck ever loses to aggro.
Never.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what his game plan was. Like, I can probably skill gap this matchup, and this matchup, but
1000%.
This matchup can just hit their curve. I can do nothing and just lose. So let me hedge for that matchup.
That's what Ed did in Continentals.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
he basically hedged for all of the purple. Like, he could outskill every other purple matchup and wanted extra points in the red blue. Yeah, you're right. Right. So congratulations, DKP, man. Like, this is I love seeing this kind of thing. Being a little outside of the box with your thinking when you're making a deck list and putting those, I mean, on one of the biggest stages to travel down to Australia and then slap this down on the table is pretty impressive, and to put up the results after, like, it's a really cool thing. Brian, anything else you want to add before we move on?
Nope. I love the enchanted super goofs. I know he took a picture with flexing all 4 of them. But like Joey said, super goofs in the early game, dropping it on turn 3, like that just helps push you over the hill there. And then with 4 pirates life, and then man, I saw some craziness too. It was wild. I do like with all these actions and stuff. Pete
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
feels bad here and there.
Pete would hurt for sure.
But the McDuck Manners having a 9 butt is just a difficult hill to overcome, especially for any Amethyst deck. It's going to be a little bit tough unless you're Crab Fox into
No, you can
whatever.
do what the McDuck Manor does, and this is probably why he's not playing Vitalosphere, is it makes your opponent have to
Have
swing
to
in
choose.
and leave characters up for you to use your shark on.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about it really early, but also 8 on Inkables makes your curve insane. And not playing anything over Be Prepared, you just stop inking at 7.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
it's a totally different game plan.
Yeah. No, it's a good list, and again, congrats to him. Melbourne was fun to watch. Unfortunately, hopefully they get that other stuff squared away that we mentioned before. But I do want to go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is the ICL.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to play this week, but Brian, John, and myself all got to commentate various matches through last week. And just to give you guys one update on this graph, the winner of January 31st was actually Ink Knights. Unfortunately, our local boys Illuminati lost that last round there. It was a crazy game that Brian, Sploosh here, and Sisu, who's not with us tonight, got to commentate. Brian, what did you think of that, and how did you like commentating?
Man, I thought, and I've commentated a little bit before, but I remember as we were like prepping in the green room and stuff, and I'm like, I'm kind of a little nervous here, especially following up right after JDZ. So big shoes to fill, number 1, but the games were pretty dang good. We did have a tie. I believe Ink Knights won round 1, and then in round 2 they ended up going to time and then turns, and unfortunately Illuminati missed the win. They got to 19 lore and weren't able to close it out. So round 3 they had to win in order to make it a tie, which would have been the first tie in the ICL. And what crazy games, because it went back and forth game 1, and then game 2 Bad Vegas brought it back. No, game 2
was Lorcana Mama.
No, that was round 2. I believe game 2 Stefan did win.
Yeah, it went to game 3.
I
thought he won game 1.
Stefan won game 1 because he needed a 2-0 to win the match.
Correct. Yeah. And then game 3 was like this crazy back and forth to the point where there was a few times like, and as a caster, you're supposed to kind of keep fill in the gaps there of silence. And I was just like watching. I was like so intensely watching the game, I'm forgetting to cast a little bit, and shame on me, right? But we're like kind of shocked going back and forth and looking at the board state, and Bad Vegas was on a really cool list with the Jim Hawkins. It was Sapphire Steel. He was playing Jim Hawkins, the Quills. The ICL games are streamed on Wonderland's Twitch channel, and those are the dates there. Kicks
also
off
on YouTube. They're on both.
Oh, okay. And kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern. On Wednesdays and Fridays.
Yes.
And so they're basically taking. I think it gets streamed on YouTube, but they're also putting out the individual matches.
Yeah, the VODs after.
Yeah, like each match cut and sent out. So they're putting that on their channel as well. I can try to find that in a second and send that out. But guys, I do, just because you asked, Chicano, I want to mention Wonderland is doing this as a passion project, and the rest of the guys, not just him, but he's providing the platform for a lot of players like us to be able to get out there and show our talents and be able to play against very high level competitors.
I mean, look at
So
those names on that board, man. From everybody's bringing some pretty high level play,
yep,
but Ed's team is on there. You got Labyrinth guys, Ohana, TFM, Cerberus, Lux,
yep,
Villain Club. Uh, 20 lores on there. Man, it's been non-stop. If you guys want to see high level gameplay, especially now, and we're going to hit on it a little bit later as we start to have this downturn in events,
yep,
this is the place to get your hit.
yep.
It's in paper as well. Like,
Yeah,
it's not on a streaming platform. Like, it's great content, great commentary. Love being a part of it.
I love the fact that they're rotating commentators and giving people a chance, right? Like,
Yep.
that was an awesome experience. At that game 3, though, man, back and forth, I thought for sure that Stefan was going to close it out. And that seeing the double swords into the fire of the cannons was bananas. I think everybody in the chat was kind of hyping it up, freaking out a little bit. I was stunned. I know Sisu was stunned. Um, and Bad Vegas closed it out, but incredibly well played by both teams.
Yep.
But that round 3, I'm super happy I got to commentate that one because that icing on the cake. I'm glad that was like the round 3 because if it had been round 1 or round 2, uh, you can't like that.
Yeah.
That was a tough act to follow for sure in terms
Yeah.
of gameplay.
I lovingly told you guys, I was like, you could just tell watching the streams that you did not know what was coming next, right?
No,
Like not being familiar with Sapphire. None of us play Sapphire Steel. I
yeah,
mean, I think we may have dabbled 1 or 2 times, right?
yeah,
But none of us really play it within our team. So there's not someone that you're getting a whole lot of reps against. So you're not familiar with a lot of the lines that they take.
Mhm.
And I also don't think you guys had the deck list. So
no,
you're like watching, like, man,
yeah.
what is he
I
gonna play
had to like.
next? What's gonna go on? You
I was
know?
like, oh, does he have the third Zeus? There it is. Does he have the whatever? So
Yeah.
normally we would have gotten the deck list. There was some technical difficulties, but
Oh
I
man, yeah.
think it kind of made it a little bit more fun. And
No, I think that's great.
we're not trying to give away their deck techs and stuff on
Hmm.
stream anyway. But Bad Vegas, unbeknownst to me, but Bad Vegas did earn his Mickey, I believe, in Vegas on Sapphire Steel. I need to
Yeah.
don't quote me there, but
He
so
definitely has a Mickey, just not sure where.
yeah,
I got it.
I'm just not. And then obviously, my question for him was, why'd you bring this deck? And comfort pick was the answer. So
Yep.
Mhm.
I am super stoked too with the ICL. Like I think in our first match, everybody kind of went with their comfort picks. But as we start to progress, right? Because this is round 1. As we
Yep.
start getting into round 2, everybody, all the other teams are kind of watching, kind of doing some scouting. Are you going to play the same thing again? Are you going to bring back how deep is not only your roster for your team, but how deep is the roster for the decks that you're comfortable on? And I think that's going to make such a huge impact,
Mm.
especially since even though it's best 2 out of 3 for the people that have never watched ICL, those wins still count for points.
Mhm.
So
And not to mention, after round 2, we're gonna be playing a completely different format, I'd imagine.
yeah, right?
Because we're gonna have the new set out, I guess, in the middle. I'm sure round 2 will probably still be set 6, but then round 3, I'd imagine, would have set 7 legal,
Yep.
which that'll be insane. I was actually lucky enough to be able to commentate on the 29th before Brian and John. I also got the really easy job of being able to commentate with JDZ Quests. Made it super easy for me. We pretty much just having conversations and just talking to each other while watching Lorcana.
Yeah.
It was really fun. I actually got to do 2 games with him, and super good match. We got to see one traditional Steel Song by Habibi against Blue Steel, the Kiwi aggro deck that's becoming very, very popular now with Alice's and Robin Hoods and
Mhm.
Doc and all that. That deck is a problem for Steel Song. Chase got his Alice's out every game against Habibi, and Habibi could never kill the Alice's, and he just kept protecting stuff, and it was like, there's nothing you can
I think
do.
the biggest issue was the Alice and then dropping the Pluto with
Yep.
Bodyguard,
Yep.
questing the Alice, and now you can't hit it with a Zeus.
Yep.
There's no easy clear. Like most of your stuff in Steel Song is low power.
Yep.
Obviously, you have your Lawrences and your other variances, but most of your singers aren't swinging in.
Yeah.
So what do you do there? And he had two of them
Yeah.
for a large chunk of those
It's pretty
games.
brutal.
Yeah, brutal, brutal, brutal,
Um,
brutal.
and then I got to commentate the last match was Amethyst Ruby again, Ruby Amethyst against Amethyst Steel, and that match literally ended as time was called. The first game took about 30 something minutes, and
Wow.
both JDZ and I were talking like, they're gonna have to pick up the pace here,
Yeah.
especially because game 2 was going to the person that lost game 1, and I think they finished game 2 with 7 minutes left, and were able to finish game 3 win those 7 minutes. So it was
And
pretty good.
and if we want to, Diggy and Kiwis have flooded locals here in Houston. I believe it, man. Absolutely believe it. I'm kind of curious to see what the meta share is going to be at this 10K next week, as well as the 5K. But what do you think of the ICL change for dice rolls?
I
Like,
think it needed to happen.
yeah.
So before this week, they did whoever Pixelborn, because that's the client that they're using to play these games on. So whoever Pixelborn gave the play to was how it happened. No matter if you lost the round prior or won the round prior, once you guys got into your custom game, whoever won the die
Oh, I didn't
roll
know that. That's
played.
Yeah.
crazy.
But now they've changed it to where the first one is going to be Pixelborn, the first match, and then from then on, whoever loses goes first after.
That's
So
smart.
like I think it's a makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
think it's a super obvious
And
change.
and then I don't know if I don't know if you know, Joey, but when
Mhm.
we played, my Pixelborn happened to be working fine. My opponent's was not. So
Right.
we got into our games twice, and I was given the play both
Mhm.
times. And then we ended up, due to the technical difficulties, we played on stream via Discord, and
Yeah.
then he beat me in the dice roll.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like,
Oh
oh
my god.
no, we still
Yeah.
got there. We
Yes,
won
we
on the
did.
draw, but yeah, I'm glad. I think it was a positive change for
Yep.
sure.
So before we move into the last topic, a couple of little things I wanted to add. Obviously, for any of you guys that have listened to or watched our podcast before, we're missing Sisu. He had to work late. Unfortunately, a lot of us are busy this week, so this was the only day that a majority of us could get on.
Mhm.
So we had to do it without our fearless leader. However, he did post out a Metafy that I wanted to link, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat for anyone that plays Emerald Steel. So Brian just mentioned he played an opponent that was on Emerald Steel. John/Sisu has come out with the Metafy going
For
over Emerald
free.
Steel for free.
For free. Check it
So
out.
I would definitely check that out if it's a deck archetype that you're interested in. Just don't play against Whirlpool with it because it's not fun for your opponent. I am looking to do a Metafy as well, so be on the lookout for that. Whenever it does happen, I'm sure we'll post it on here. Probably going to be mainly free, to be honest with you, because I just want to get the content in your guys' hands and help you do well at whatever your tier of event is. If it's just you want to do well at your weeklies, I think we all just want to see that. If you want to do well at your set champs, we want to help you get to that point, and then DLCs, right? Like just sharpening each other. That's what this team is about, sharpening
Mhm.
each other, and then we want to help you guys sharpen yourselves as well. And then subscriber stuff. Brian, do you want to go over what our subscriber
Yeah,
goals were,
absolutely.
like what our raffles are that
We're
we're going to
doing
do?
multiple giveaways as we hit our subscriber goals on our YouTube channel. So head on over, hit that button, give us a few likes, throw us some comments, ask some questions. Obviously, now that we're streaming live every single time we do the podcast, it's much easier to have that rapport, and we'll answer whatever questions you guys throw on. But for our subscribers, once we hit the 300 subscriber mark, we're going to be doing a giveaway, as
Mhm.
well as 400 and 500. For the
Mm-hmm.
500, we're giving away a sealed box of the Azurite Sea,
Yep.
as well as the Cusco. I
I
believe
don't
it was.
remember. I remember. I think Scar was for 400. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
So at 500, we're giving away a box, as well as the Nationals Cusco, so
Mhm.
the Altart Cusco. And
Mm-hmm.
then at 400, we're doing the new promo scar from the set champs, along with the promo Mirabelle.
Pin.
Oh, the pin, the gold
Yeah.
pin. And then at 300, we're doing the previous set champ Mirabelle along with a Baymax. I'll be giving away one of my Baymaxes. So head on over. Lots of things to win. And just because you win at on one of the giveaways doesn't mean
Yeah.
you can't win again. So
Yep. Did you say Baymax is at 300?
yep, I'm giving away a Baymax at 300.
That's the closest thing. We're at 247 right now. So
Close.
really not that far from 300. So I would definitely, if you haven't already, sub just to make sure that you're part of that raffle draw when we do it. Chicano Heat, just to hit your question there, no issues with Pixelborn Connect at all. Just the way that ICL is ran. We used to do Pixelborn Connect would choose who went first in that custom game, and that was the route we went for who played first for their match. Now they're changing it to after the first, because there's 3 matches that play each night from each team. After the first match, whoever loses, the team that lost, their player used to go first in the next game instead of leaving it up to Pixelborn Connect. That's all I mentioned there. No, nothing has happened to Pixelborn. We're still good there. But getting into our last topic, I know we probably won't spend a whole lot of time on this because I don't want it to be negative. I just wanted to kind of bring something up that I'm feeling a little bit, and I think we are super blessed because we have this 10K and 5K this next weekend. But Lorcana Burnout, I played a lot of set 6, man. I feel like I've played a lot, and for pretty big stakes, and maybe that's why I'm feeling a little bit more of the burnout. Wasn't able to go to a whole lot of set champs, but I really wasn't like super motivated to either. It's like, okay, if I go, it's cool, but if not, it's not the end of the world for me. Not having a Ravensburger sponsored event date is, I think, something that adds to that. Like, there's nothing to practice for. Just kind of aimlessly playing games for a meta that after this weekend really isn't going to matter.
Doesn't mean anything, yeah.
So it's a normal thing to feel. If you're feeling this way, it's not a crazy thing to step back and fill your time with some other things. Like, just know that the other set's coming out. I think my dad's one of those right now. Like, he's taking a break. Well, he said he was taking a break, and then he went and won a SCAR in Oregon. So again, he's taking a break and just to kind of cool down, right? Because it takes a lot of time to not only get better at the game, but to understand some of the cards. But yeah, Lorcana Burnout is a thing. So just take care of yourself, take care of your mental, and just what do you guys think about that term as well?
Yeah, man, for sure. Not only that, but like for set 6, at least for us, most of us attended the quad case tournament day after at SSG. You and I went to Charlie's Collectibles, followed by the 8 case tournament, and then nationals, and set champs kind of snuck up, and I was like, I'll go to the ones that are within 30 minutes of my house. Otherwise, I'm not gonna like go out of my way like that. But I think, as you mentioned too, just not having any additional news is kind of taking some of the hype away. I think everybody by now feels like they should have posted some dates, if not for Worlds, but for the other DLCs that should be happening this year. And then we're also
I thought we would have got something in Melbourne, by the way.
And then we're
a
also
card or something.
Anything, literally anything, or the date for the date where they would make the announcements. But then February 10th, right? We'll have some spoilers. Maybe they'll sprinkle something else in there. But I think at this stage, and I know I've seen different kind of complaints and views on, hey, 4 sets a year is too many. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
3 months, because once you start nearing the end of that 3rd month, you're kind of like, all right, let's what else can I look forward to? And not for nothing, like 2 months doesn't seem like that long of a time, but
when you're playing that much,
depending, and I don't even go to that many in-person events. I try to, but I'm definitely feeling it. Like, and there's, I think the other thing that adds to it too is like you go to these really high stake events, where you're playing 6, 7, 8, 9 rounds, whatever it may be, or
Yep.
there's a day to it, like nationals. Even though I had to leave early, afterwards I was like, yeah, I'm
I
good.
need a break.
I need a break. Then I get home and I was like,
Mhm.
let me jump online really quick and find a quick game or whatever.
Yeah.
But for sure, like, especially when you're just like you're committing 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, even set champs. Some of these set champs, depending on how many players you
Mhm.
have, you're looking
Yep.
at 5, 6, 7 rounds.
Yep.
Cutting into top 8 or top 4, whatever, you end up playing at a minimum 6 rounds, right? Almost at
Yep.
a minimum if you go all the way. So it is time consuming to a degree. Um, and then if you're playing your locals, your leagues and stuff, it just piles on. And I'm definitely at the point where like I'm I'm happy to chill.
Hmm.
Um, but with that, I've looked at some other TCGs. I might be uh, sticking with Lorcana. I love Lorcana.
We're
Not
all
going
sticking
anywhere.
with Lorcana.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's not
Yes.
like nothing there.
Not going anywhere. But definitely saw some
What?
pretty
What's up,
cool and
Joe?
interesting games with One Piece. Some of the guys were playing at the store championship that I went to yesterday, and it looks like a very well fleshed out game. So might do some digging, look up some YouTube videos, find some One Piece podcasts to look into.
Yeah. Joey, I'm most curious about your perspective on this because I think out of the whole team, you've probably played the least amount in paper in this
Mhm.
set.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what your feelings are.
I think burnout's a good word for it. The like we're all competitive players. Like we're looking to play at a high level event. Like we're looking to test our skills, test our deck building like knowledge and such. And it's like the lack of direction that we kind of have in the game right now is kind of an anti-motivator because
Mhm.
like when you have worlds coming up, it's like, oh gosh, I gotta like, or like DLCs coming up, it's like I gotta like figure out what the game plan is. It's like the set's about to run out, but there's a DLC at the end of the set. I gotta like make sure that the meta's figured out. I gotta figure out what my play lines are. And now I'm just sitting here like after this 10K, like, what do we do?
A
What's
Mhm.
going on
5K
next?
the very following day.
You're right. On Super Bowl Sunday.
I've heard this Chicano.
Dude.
I've heard this game is incredible.
Yeah,
People,
I have
Chicano,
too.
I grew up on Gundam Wing. I grew up on all the way through like Gundam Seed and Iron Blooded Orphans and stuff. So I'm super big into the Gundam universe, but
Mhm.
just that first glimpse of the Gundam beta box, phenomenal
Special.
looking, so clean. I'm definitely interested. My local store, unfortunately, I wasn't able to sign up because I found out too late. But they got like a small batch of the beta boxes, and they did
Ooh,
basically like
a raffle.
a raffle to see who could participate. I think they only got like 8 or 16.
Mhm.
So super curious. I will definitely check it out. If even if I don't play, I might have some of my favorites. Uh,
Mhm.
Last time I went to Japan, they have I guess an old Gundam TCG, and I went and found some cards
That's cool.
from Gundams that I really like, and I brought them back home.
mm. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's options out there, and Dry,
Mhm.
I'll let you finish. I don't want it to get to seem like I know we're talking about burnout, and that could be seen as like a negative leaning word to where it's like, oh, these guys are gonna quit the game and stuff. It's not that.
Nope.
It's just having that open conversation of it's okay to feel this way.
Mhm.
We're still gonna make content weekly, trying to get these podcasts out and just have these discussions because it gives us a reason to go talk to each other too,
Yep.
Yeah.
which I think is the most important thing.
Mhm.
Getting out to see your friends at the locals like that is also super important. I think that's one of the biggest things that you get in this game. But it's okay to feel like you're burned out. Like sometimes, like
Mhm.
take care of yourselves. Like that's my big thing for this. But Joey, if you are you so you're not feeling that way, you're
No, and so like I'm like a little torn right now. Like I feel great about the game. I think it's got a healthy like direction that it is going. It's just I'm hoping that the 10th reveals a lot of information. But like one of the big things that I like we talked about this a couple months ago, where it's like we were both playing, me and you, Mikey, were playing Star Wars. And it was like we kind of stuck with Lorcana because the DLC roadmap, the Worlds roadmap, the Continentals roadmap was all there. And now we're getting to Worlds and we still don't know when Worlds is. We don't know what's after Worlds. We don't know, like, PPG didn't get a renewed contract, so we don't even know who like the organizer is for Ravensburger. And so like there's all these like little like unknowns. And then it's like I look back, I was talking with some guys at the set champs that walked in that were some friends from Star Wars, and they're like, oh, they just unveiled the Star Wars roadmap.
And then
And
you
it's
start
like,
getting excited.
exactly. And I'm just like, oh wow, like my game had that and now it doesn't. And it's
Yeah.
like now I'm like in
But
between.
I guarantee you, and as soon as I say this, I want to obviously comment on what Apple mentioned there. But
Mhm.
I guarantee you that if tomorrow they're
They're gonna
like,
release all
"Hey,
the information.
Worlds is
Oh
gonna be
yeah.
this date," and alongside we're gonna be doing a
Yeah.
DLC. We're gonna be doing a DLC to like alongside Worlds.
Yeah.
I again, like just for the other DLCs, right? We'd be like, all right, hey, 8 p.m. You guys better all be
Mhm.
online, or 11 p.m. Eastern. We all need to make sure we're online, ready to go. Refresh,
Yeah.
try to get your tickets. But I think that would obviously bring that spark back. But
Yeah.
as it
It's like,
stands,
mouse, take my money. I want to
Yeah.
give you my money.
Yeah. No, exactly.
but yeah, Apple. I went to NACC and it was painful to play during holidays. Even now, I don't really want to play. Dude,
Mhm.
that's totally fine.
Totally okay.
It is totally okay. We understand. Um, I would not have gone to any of these last few events if my friends also hadn't gone. Like, if at any point in time everybody was like, "Hey, unfortunately I got to bail," I would have
Mhm.
just been like, "You know what? I'm probably just gonna chill at home because I ended up getting tickets for the DLC in Dallas, and then nobody else could make it. And I was
Mhm.
about like I told my wife I was like, I'll just refund my plane ticket. I'll refund the actual competitor's ticket, and then thankfully Hector and Danny and Kylie all kind of mostly Hector hooked it up for me. And I went and stayed with them, and it was an absolute blast. Crashed on the couch, had a bunch of fun. So, like, do I need to go down to this 10K next week? Nah, I'm pretty content with waiting. But the fact that I also get to make it a trip and I get to
Mhm.
see all these friends, not only like friends that I consider my family, but other players and kind of get to talk to the community, right? I think that's what it's all about. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, yeah,
And I think I also like I think it was set 2. I don't think I played like more than like maybe 1 or 2 times in a local
Yeah.
because the deck I wanted to play wasn't viable. And so instead of just getting my stuff kicked in every week, I was just like I was happy playing the game. I was happy to like still engage in the game, but like I was able to take that 2-3 months off and do other things. And then when the set came back and it was lively, and like you just take breaks from games, you take breaks from certain aspects of life. Like it's natural, it's a progression.
and
Apple,
you can
like what you're
always come
saying.
back to it, right? Like,
Yeah,
Exactly.
and everybody has their different reasons
Hmm.
for taking said break. Like I said, guys, we're not going anywhere. We're gonna keep creating content. I don't want
Yes.
you to think that this is like our goodbye because it's not that at all.
yeah,
It's just a discussion I wanted to have because I know I've had some conversations with friends that are like, I'm not really feeling it, you know. But like Joey mentioned, he didn't want to play his deck because he didn't feel like it was well positioned. Where my I like when I'm getting my butt kicked and I can't figure out why, and I can try to figure out deck choices that can help me figure that out and sharpening the deck design and like that's I really love deck building. And I think that's where I spend a lot of my time. But at the same time, because I like deck building so much and I spend so much time doing it,
I want to
I
see
think
those
I'm
good results.
I want to see the good results, but I'm also probably a little more susceptible to said burnout because I'm like, does this work? Does this work? Does this work? I got to try 10 games of this, 10 games of this, blah, 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 because I can't have a small sample size to show it. Um, again, it's just putting things into perspective and priority of what's important to you while you're playing the game. My most important thing is I'm playing with my friends. I'm hanging out with the community. We're building a community too within this card game. It's giving us this awesome opportunity to have this opportunity to get to you guys and talk to you. You know, like have a weekly thing where we come out and talk to you
Yep.
guys. Like that's what this has given me, and I'm going to use that. Am I going to have to go to every local that happens for the next week? No. You know, like I can still come and talk about the game with you all, and whatever issues are going on in the game, because man, we've had stuff come up pretty much every week, so that part's good too. Disappointed. Let's take this one from Apple. I will say I'm a bit disappointed with all the releases. So many card design close to something playable, and it feels that many color printing, not giving much tools. I think this one could be interesting with the next set.
Yeah,
right?
I would say hold off until they start
Yeah.
dropping spoilers for this set, because I think this set's going to be pretty impactful just based off of the little bit that they've released.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think you're going to see some of those color pairings that you mentioned not getting a lot of tools. They're forcing tools in those color pairings now, right? I mean, assuming we got an Amber Emerald, we got a Blurple, I feel like they're going to give at least a few cards for each color pairing, like that's imaginable. Even your Ruby Steel. So it is underwhelming, but here's the thing, and maybe I'm giving Ravensburger a lot of credit, but does Ruby Sapphire really need that many tools right now? Right? I want the broken cards to be in the colors that are already, like, give me a Ruby Steel card that's broken. Give me a
Blurple card that's broken.
Blurple's kind of having a little bit of time to shine now. Give me a Emerald
Amethyst
Sapphire.
Amber, or Emerald
Emerald
Ruby, like
I don't want the cards that are already, like the color pairings that are already existing and doing well to be who gets the tools of the set, like the big tools, like the Diablos of the set, the super impactful cards. Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I just wish we had more information for what's to come after. But look, man, they're still learning. They've been really good about giving us information even when we've complained about things. Yeah, give us an Emerald Steel card that discards and deals damage. I agree. No, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, Shotox. Nobody wants that. Oh, man.
So, Apple, your other point with the red-blue, I actually think there's a aggro deck out there, a red-blue heroes deck.
Anna?
Yeah, Anna with, what's her name? Alice. And I think that there's something there. It's super low to the ground, and it's very quick, and it's all-in type deal. But I think that there's some workings there. It's just you gotta.
Shark says hi.
Yeah,
like
basically.
Into that deck, yeah, Shark.
Yeah, but then like you see, what was Raymond playing? Was it Green Steel Pirates? Like and he's been having good success with it. Nothing like crazy.
Nassif is playing.
Green Steel Nassif. Pirates. Yes, yeah.
That was that one. That was that one local.
But perfect example would be Amethyst.
That's your favorite. That's your favorite word.
I know, dude. But the Maleficent Staff, I want that deck to work so badly.
Yes,
and you guys know the amount of time and hours and deck construction that I put into that deck. And unfortunately, it just hasn't come together. We're missing one or two key components, but I think we'll get there. Again, we're only close, set 6.
Yeah,
we are close. Only in set 6, and it's too early to pull the plug. I don't think
it's too early to pull.
It's way too early. It's way too early.
No, I could definitely see that card becoming a deck at some point.
And I think part of it too, with like kind of addressing Apple, like there's a bunch of these other cards that don't see a lot of gameplay right now. A Pirate's Life being one of them. At
2 sets.
Right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, hey, this new card goes hand in hand, and now we're seeing 4 of takes Melbourne first place.
Manor.
Like, I also think that as much as we talk about like bad card design and stuff like that, god, no, definitely not.
Dude, how many Emerald Steel people do we have that follow this channel?
They all follow John's Metafy.
Yeah. I should post that again for all you Emerald Steel lovers. If you guys weren't in here before, here's a free Metafy that I'll put it on Twitch.
But I think that Ravensburger has a very good dev team as far as like playtest group. I think that there's definitely a hiccup in Bucky and stuff like that, but like the card quality that they've put out and the design of the game has meshed really well together. And I think that we're still a year and a quarter in, year and a half in. Like this is such a young game. Like you have cards that we're probably playing now, like we talked about Pirate's Life. Like it didn't come online until a certain card 2 sets later comes into existence. A Maleficent Staff we need 3 or 4 more sets worth of bounce cards to make that thing work. But then when it does, it's lights
gonna
out.
be awesome, right? And then
Yeah.
same thing with like the subcategories for the characters and the
Yep,
cards and
archetypes.
stuff, archetypes. It's coming. Pirates,
Mhm.
we've had pirates since forever, and I still wouldn't say it's like a highly competitive deck. But at Charlie's Collectibles, there was a guy in round 4 who was 3-1 with it, I think, or round
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
And he was catching people off guard. Was it he even at the end he admitted like, it's not fleshed out. I just really enjoy pirates, and he was trying to make it work. Like, there's gonna be people that create certain deck archetypes under whatever color pairings, and they're gonna find success with it. And maybe, maybe that could be you.
I mean, look, Blurple's getting Sven next set. Like, they're gonna take off to the moon.
I'm not kidding with this. I don't. We haven't gotten a spoiler, Ravensburger. If you'd like to give us a spoiler, I'd love to get that. But I have this feeling that Blurple's getting a board wipe. I really do. I think there's going to be a Blurple board
Not
wipe.
like a traditional, not like
It'll be an Inkwell.
Ruby.
I don't
be
care
an
what it is.
Inkwell.
I don't care what it is. If it's an Inkwell thing, like that's fine. I can make that work.
Yeah,
But
I
have
like. I want that.
You could say that Emerald got a board wipe this past set with
Terminus. Yes.
with Jasmine, but it's just a horrendous.
shift. Do this.
Yeah.
No, don't give me any. I don't want any hoops I have to jump through. Make it a sync together. A sync together 7 cost. Everything into the Inkwell on your opponent's side.
Dude.
That's
Stop.
it. That's all. Inkable.
Stop. No, it wouldn't be everything on the opponent's side. I could see something where it would say like everything goes into the Inkwell.
No, we don't need that. We need our characters.
On both players. But would that be so bad with like rabbits and different like, goats and stuff?
Yeah, that'd be bad. I don't want that.
No.
Well, we also need graveyard hate is another thing. I think
there's no graveyard. There's no graveyard stuff yet. There's not enough graveyard stuff that you need graveyard hate.
But eventually there will be. I mean,
Yeah,
Shark
so
is Shark.
You don't need graveyard hate
Lilo.
until there's like a lot of things.
There's that one cost song that sends 3 back into their deck.
Lady next set. Like graveyard's about to pop off.
We're still ways off of that. No, we can sit here and speculate all night. Now I will say this. When we do get the full list of spoiled cards, I want to have a podcast.
Thank you, Shadax.
Yep. I'd like to have a podcast where we go through each card and probably be a long.
You did this last set. And,
I did it solo,
and you did it by yourself.
Yeah,
I will definitely be on the next one. I liked it.
Yeah,
and there's a reason you did it by yourself, man. That shit was so long.
It was long. I have to look back and see how wrong I was because I'm pretty wrong about a lot of things. I think I said Shark was like a B tier card at the start of the set.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I'll fess up to it. I'm gonna put my neck out there for a lot of cards and say what I think about them, but I'm definitely not always right. Well, I think we have been going pretty long here. I really appreciate all of you guys for sticking around. This has been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We covered a pretty wide array of topics.
Ooh. Yeah, man.
I
think that certain movies, as they start releasing, like
26
Toy Stories, whatever it is, Toy Story. I guess we can end on that. What movie?
Let's end on that. That's a good question to end it on. What movie are you waiting for? Are you the most excited for seeing in Lorcana?
Yeah. Does it have to be?
Well, Pixar's not coming till 2026, so you may want to make it outside of Pixar. And Marvel is not a thing. Kingdom Hearts is not a thing.
I feel like I have to. Oh, Kingdom Hearts will never be a thing because
I don't think so.
I think
that would be insane, dude.
I would love that. So because it opens up to Final Fantasy too.
Oh man, yeah. That I don't think they can do that.
Hey, what's another IP is Star Wars.
No, that's definitely not happening.
There's no way.
So, just Disney. What Disney movie?
My lightsaber equipped whatever is gonna take out your cheapo.
My Lilo has a lightsaber.
So even Pixar movies, we'll go with that. Like, what movie are you guys wanting to see cards? What movie are you wanting to play cards from the most that we don't have yet?
Pixar movie.
I know
mine. Toy Story would be a crazy one.
Toy Story is definitely.
Let me do a quick Google.
Yeah, that's kind of what I have to do.
Mine's Tarzan for sure.
Oh,
Give me
man.
Tarzan. Give me all the songs.
Ooh, I want Cars.
Cars is also Pixar, so it'll be in 2026. Coco and Pixar's. I am a massive Coco fan.
Mm-hmm.
I have to like play some of those cards and not start crying into my opponent, so that'll be good.
Meet the Robinsons, yes.
Isn't Pocahontas? Is that set 8? They said, or they just said this year?
Yeah, it's this year.
Oh, so Pocahontas is coming?
Yeah, I was. I also wanted to talk about that. I saw a comment on either Facebook or Reddit. The whole point of Mushu, that the reason that Mushu hasn't been released and that it's kind of a controversial thing is that Mushu has like anti-China like lore to him or something like that.
I heard about that too.
Really?
I can't remember where I saw it, but I did hear about that too. But he's in the picture. Like I don't know.
It's got to be coming, but like I
feel like they wouldn't do it, but Ratatouille would be interesting.
What do you mean? They're definitely going to do Ratatouille.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of rats.
They'll probably have
instead of 99 puppies, it's
I mean,
99
have
rats.
you not met Flaversham?
Yeah, what is the Great Mouse Detective? It's a bunch of rats.
Yeah,
Ratigan.
Yeah, Great Mouse Detective. Yeah, about a Blurple opponent entire board master hand.
Monsters Inc.
If this happened, Blurple gets the staff deck and Emerald Amethyst doesn't.
Oh yeah. What is it? What was it in Magic? Flood.
Wheel of Cheese, yeah. And Flood. What? Flood,
what was the card in Magic? It was a 6-drop blue card. I can't remember it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cyclonic Rift is one of them.
Oh yeah.
All right, Brian, what you got? You Ratatouille? Is that your final answer?
I don't know, man. I'm trying to because a lot of them are like, oh, they haven't done this one, and they have done it. They've done a boatload already. Just like
I am worried. Yeah, I was gonna say I am a little worried about Ink Destruction.
Yes, give me Ink Destruction. I want land destruction.
The only way I think Ink Destruction would be cool is if it's a cost to the player that's using it. And they could be like, I want to blow up this ink for this extra cost to play this card or do this thing. Like, okay, like a kicker, for example. Like, I got to blow up an ink to banish chosen opponent character or something like that. I don't want it to be to where my opponent can blow my ink up when I don't think that'd be fun at all. I think it would destroy too many strategies. Up would be awesome too. Kevin, there's no songs and stuff. So I feel like the movies that don't have a lot of songs, they may lean away from. They'll just kind of put supplemental cards in, but we'll see, man.
Dude, I'm looking at like the feature films list, and there's like a large chunk of them are already.
Yeah, I'm looking at Dinosaur. No Dinosaur cards.
Hunchback they haven't done.
Hunchback would be good. It's got some good music. What's the main song in Hunchback?
The Three Caballeros. They haven't done that one either.
We should do like Disney trivia at the end of these podcasts.
Ooh, that would be fun.
I'm sorry, guys. We're kind of rambling here. We should probably just button this up because we're like rambling on.
The Aristocats.
Ooh, no.
They haven't done
I know the Pixar one. The Incredibles.
Ooh. Incredibles would be awesome.
Yeah.
Bluey entering Lorcanaverse. If they didn't spoil it this weekend, they missed a chance. So exactly. I don't know. We may not get it. Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you for
staying around.
Yeah, I know this has been a long one.
Thanks
for all the interaction with the chat.
15 minutes.
Yeah, love the interaction. Love being able to engage with you guys. This platform, being able to do these live streams, gives us that opportunity to do so. But we can only do that if you guys are interacting with us. So thank you again. We'll try to get out another one after the 10K/5K next weekend. Yep. So probably either Monday or Tuesday next week. Keep an eye out for our next pod.
Maybe we'll do some in-person interviews.
Yeah, absolutely. We could definitely do some of that. There's going to be so many players there.
Yeah. And then socials, Mikey Hayes 62291 on Twitter. Check out our YouTube, Freedom Gaming TCG. I just made a Twitter with a whole 6 followers right now. So Sploosh Magoo. Joey, do you have any socials?
Not yet. I'll probably get one soon. I gotta
starting off, getting old, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I want to get my own Twitter, and then I also want to get a team Freedom Gaming Twitter handle as well going.
Word. And then once again, guys, for anybody who missed it, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We are doing giveaways at 300, 400, and 500 subscribers. Hit us up, win some cool stuff, and we will catch you on the next one.
Yep. Take care, guys. And it was Out There, Tiana. That was the song I was thinking of. Out There. See y'all. Take care.